bike, steamy bike, burning your legs with steam. Today on Ice to Spice You, I talked to some Las Vegas locals and fellow sound designers Gabe Romero and Dan Glynn. Both gentlemen started as circus musicians for Ringling, and both are currently sound designers for Konami casino games. In today's episode, we talk about the modularity of music, RVs, inflatable head spikes, and Dan and Gabe's band Greybag and their freshly released album Never Meant to Stay. Let's listen. Did I make you guys as nervous as I made myself doing that? Well, okay, so my guests today are Gabe Romero and Dan Glynn. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, perfect.
So, Gabe, I met you first because I just messaged you through LinkedIn and said, how do I become a sound designer in Vegas? And like most people in this industry, you're actually like really forthcoming with like, yeah, we just talk about, I sent you some work and shit, and you were like, that's cool, and then this is like this, and blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, I just live down the street. Let's go to the Blue Ox or whatever. And then we've just kind of been hanging out ever since. And then obviously I met Dan through Gabe. So your careers are sort of intertwined. You both ran off and joined the circus. You're both now sound designers for Konami here in Vegas. And you are in a band called Greybag, and you just released your full album called Never Meant to Stay, which I ordered on Bandcamp, and I got here. Gabe was like, here's your record. He goes, you want the shipping back?
I saw that. I was like,
that's cool.
Oh, man.
No, I don't have to wait for the UPS guy to destroy this. This is nice. Just general kind of broad strokes. The sentence I have here is, how did each of you get your start in music, and why did you do that to yourself? Who hurt you? So I don't know who wants to go first.
You should do it, Dan.
So growing up, both of my parents were they weren't professional musicians by any means.
Okay.
But they played instruments, and they always encouraged us to either, learn piano or something like that. So
Yeah.
that was how that started, just at an early age, just playing violin and
Okay.
guitar.
Oh, I should say that you're primarily a bass player.
Primarily, yeah.
Gabe is a piano player.
Yeah. So then, anything that came about, like people are like, hey, so you want to start a band, or just some random stuff that happens as you're growing up.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and where are you originally from? Sorry.
I'm from New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. I spent a little bit of my life in Vermont.
Okay.
And then moved to New Hampshire.
Okay. So you started on violin. Between that and I guess the period I'm looking for is up until joining Ringling, and I guess that's a lot of time.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot.
Just
of time.
broad strokes,
That's okay. Yeah, so all throughout high school, I just had 5 bazillion bands, playing with whoever I could possibly play with, and then went to college, and I started as a biology major.
Okay.
And just to, I figured that I couldn't really make it as a musician. So I'm like, well, biology, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And then after the first year, I'm like, I cannot do biology. It's not going to work. I immediately switched over to music, and it was much happier. Yeah.
That's how they get you.
Yes.
It's more satisfying. It's more immediate. God, my tone sounds really good. It's not I don't know what cells are made of. Whatever biologists talk about.
But yeah, so it was more of the same throughout college, just, learning music and playing at absolutely anywhere that I could possibly play. If they were musicals, or people wanted a bass player for bands or whatever, it was anything I needed to play for.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it was just I had to do it.
You're a hustler.
Yeah.
Like so many bass players.
So I graduated, and I'm like, well, what do I do now? So I went to cruise ships, and that only lasted 4 months. Okay. And then I gave up on it.
Did you not dig the lifestyle kind of thing, or was it?
I kind of felt like I was stuck on the ship at all times.
Well, it's your whole life. It's that you don't feel rooted anywhere, which is a dream come true for some people. But You were, and now it's just the rest of the podcast, just me talking about cruise ships. No, but it's like you're not. It's the same thing every day. You're not rooted anywhere. You don't have like you want to just like do normal people shit. Like,
yeah, but like you can't just say, "See you guys later."
Yeah,
like, you're on that ship.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
That's
You're trapped in an office. It's like working on if the Konami building was floating
Was a
around,
boat.
you know,
Yeah.
and you guys had a crew bar and a.
Yeah,
So then after cruise ships, kind of like ended up. I mean, like that's a similar gig. It's like you're traveling, doing the circus thing. I mean,
yeah. So cruise ships, and then I did a national tour of the Wedding Singer, the musical.
oh okay. How long did you do that?
Probably like 6 months, something
Okay.
like that. As always, it's like so go do cruise ships, come back home, and like just do random stuff like work at restaurants. Go do this tour, come back, work at restaurants, do random stuff. So I moved down to Connecticut for the summer, and I was just working at like a UPS store, and I saw I think it was like Playbill, an audition for Ringling Brothers.
Okay.
And it was an audition in Coney Island. I drove. It was like my first experience like driving through New York, which was like completely insane.
Yeah.
And I'm like all tweaked out because I have to do this audition
That
for the
nervous
circus.
energy.
And but it was amazing. Just like pulled up to the lot, and it's all like muddy and like RVs everywhere. And
I pictured like the I don't know, like American Horror Story, like the like the actual carnival, like you're pulling up to like
That
stripy
spot.
tents.
yeah. That was like legit tent, for 2 months.
I was gonna say like they must just audition people when they're on their regular setup, so it's like
Yeah,
they don't have like I mean, do they have like a headquarters somewhere or?
There is, but I've never like the times we've auditioned folks since I've been on the road has been like people show up to the gig,
Yeah.
and audition,
Yeah, okay.
and it's usually friends of friends. Like that was kind of an outlier that it was even any posting in Playbill,
yeah,
but like it seemed like towards the end of that first wave of Ringling's existence, like towards the end they were just putting out
when you
open
say
auditions.
we'll come back to the first wave thing maybe, but well,
Yeah.
no, we'll just follow the whatever. What do you mean first wave? Like,
Well, because it started back up. Ringling started touring again in September, and that's
what
a
year?
new show this year.
This year?
or past 2023. But
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
but it's a different show. Like there's no band or anything. It's all tape. There's some elements that are live. Like there's a musician, but he's like a cast member.
Yeah.
But he's playing, and
Yeah.
Well,
It's like what Cirque did. They all everything in Vegas. They all did that. So then you're driving. It's a muddy, tenty area.
It's muddy and tenty. Yeah. And so we walk into the tent, and he's like just showing me around. He's like, "Oh, this is the pie car, which is where you can get food." And as I'm standing there, like an elephant walks through the back of the tent. And it's like
I was hoping it'd be something like that.
like my first time seeing an elephant. I'm like, oh my god!
The same day you drove through New York for the first time, you saw an elephant for the first time.
it's like after your audition, Dan. Like, how did you feel? Like,
Oh, this is good.
Did
This
you
is good.
feel like you were like, yeah, I think I got this? Or,
I am not really sure, to be honest with you. Yeah, like they just set the chart down in front of you, and there's like that we're in the bandstand, the drummer's there.
There's an
like,
elephant watching you over your shoulder.
Yeah, there's a clown,
trunk comes
like-
and turns the page for you.
poking you in the eyeball. Yeah. So Steve was like, "Yeah, you actually you played that probably better than I did, and you just saw it."
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it was like this like crazy 6/8 thing where it was like like
I don't even remember
just
what it was
obscene
that we
bass
did.
fill.
Yeah. They put the hardest shit in front of you on
Yeah.
purpose.
I had to do it like I was playing like a classical guitar, like I was using like all of my fingers on my right hand to pluck. But yeah, it was all just kind of happened after that point. It wasn't like I didn't really have an idea as to like, okay, I did it now.
Right.
Now it's gonna happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, and then you were with them for how long? Like, and what year was that when you started with Ringling?
2010.
11, 12.
Okay.
It was so quick. Like we had 2 or 3 people in total, 2 or 3, and then it was like, "What do you guys feel about who auditioned?" And it was like, well, the other kid didn't talk much, and like Dan actually like talked.
That's surprising because I'm basically socially an idiot.
Well, that's the thing. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, but we all are. Like, by comparison to each other, though, it's like you're probably, we're all fucking introverted.
That band, though, we're all like goofballs on that particular band.
So that's probably why, because you guys were very like I remember you being like super friendly, and
you started. What's the actual gig like? Is it like, are you memorizing charts? Is there, I don't know, are they separate shows, or is it one big routine that you do all in one night, and then that's the whole thing every night, all the time, or?
Yeah, so it's the same show every night, but certain portions of the like timings and stuff can change because it's live.
Yeah.
So you just kind of have to go wherever things go.
Yeah,
I mean, it's supposed to be the same thing every night.
Yeah.
We'd have like some like backup plans for acts that are injured, or there was a few. I don't remember if we did this while you were on the show, but we would play things in a different key for a backup ringmaster. Did we ever do that?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember like transposing anything.
We'd have like an understudy, and sometimes it would be like completely rework of the production numbers. And
fucking just the whole thing revolves around what fucking key the singer can go in, and everybody else has to just scramble.
But we were
no
also
offense,
like,
singers, but fuck you.
get good.
So it's just the same. Is it the same routine? But then you just have like
there'd be different like band feature.
Yeah, it was like the big like production numbers. So they'd have like like during Christmas we'd be it was super Christmas magic explosion. Extravaganza. Yeah. Spectacular.
Spectac. 4th of July spectac.
Yeah, that's right.
So like when you started, how long were you with Ringling?
Collectively about 15 years, I think.
So you started how much before Dan?
I started in December of 1999.
Yes. Okay.
And went until 2006 on the Red Show, which was like the by the train, play all the crazy big cities, and that was more akin to a cruise ship, because you were locked on that train when it was moving, and you weren't going anywhere.
Yeah. So okay, then that brings me to my RV question with both of you. So my impression so far has been that you both, like, they offer you lodgings on a train, right? Like that you don't have to buy an RV necessarily, or
the 2 big shows were by train.
Okay.
And then the Gold Show, which we both were on, it was a one-ring show that would play like the smaller markets.
Okay.
And the places where the rails were too expensive or didn't reach. And that was truck and trailer. That was like roll your own. You're either in the hotel or you're doing the RV thing.
They give you the option of a hotel.
Yeah.
I feel like there was always something wrong with the RV.
Yeah.
Like either like you had to reseal things because it was leaking, or like just random stuff. Like my awning at one point as I was driving, it was through like Kansas, just came out. And it was like flapping like a giant sail as I'm going 70 miles an hour.
Did you realize right away? Or
I did.
Okay, good.
It was like super loud and frightening. So I basically just ripped the thing off and like jammed it inside my RV and kept going.
Like you have to. They give you the schedule. They give you where they're going to be when. Mm-hmm. Are you like looking up RV camps? Near there, kind of thing, and then
kind of planning. Like the cool thing about that was you can kind of plan scene stuff,
That's but then you're on a road trip for like 6 years.
For sure. Yeah,
it's like
it actually isn't as tiring as it sounds like it would be, because that was actually one of my first questions for Robbie. I was like, it seems like it's the most tiring job ever. Like you're constantly traveling and you're having to like deal with all of these like repairs or whatever, and as soon as you get out there, it's kind of like you're just on vacation and getting paid for it, and being able to play. It was amazing.
There's only a few really big drives. Like
Yeah.
usually you were able to knock it out in a day.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, what's the circuit like? What areas
It
did you do the
changed.
same thing? Oh, changed. Okay.
I mean, for the most part, it was the same tour every year.
Okay.
Which is different than the bigger shows because those were like 2-year tours.
Okay.
So you could kind of plan your year out. And
Yeah.
it would kind of line up with some of those cities were always around the same time.
That's kind of nice, man. Like it's
Oh
just
yeah.
the freedom. I'm just comparing it to cruise ships where you're just trapped on this big boat that they, you know, you have to go where they go, obviously, but
Yeah.
like you can go out, split off and then come back and do that a lot.
Yeah.
That sounds nice.
You're always able to kind of plan your summer and your
Yeah.
fall. It was usually in the Pacific Northwest, and
It's a good variety, I guess, is
Yeah.
like what the key there is.
I think our show saw a lot more cornucopia of the U.S. than
Okay.
say the big shows because the big shows were playing big markets,
Yeah.
and so you were playing like the Dallas and
Yeah,
New
okay.
York City. And,
Yeah.
And then we would go to like Bend, Oregon, and be like, "We're in beer country. This is fantastic."
Yeah.
So like we played Tupelo, Mississippi.
Okay.
You know, or like
Never heard of it. That means it's probably pretty
birthplace of
cool.
Elvis. How dare no?
Oh shit!
Dare you?
Okay, well,
That's the thing.
sorry to my father-in-law,
That's
who's
the
big Elvis fan. I hope he doesn't listen to this.
What the hell did we play in Alabama again?
Greenbow. That's not
Greenbow,
a real place. It's not a real
Alabama.
place. I didn't know that was a real city until I
felt
met my
real.
wife. I was like, "Where's Greenbow?" And she's like, "I was like, why are you looking at me like that?" Anyway,
I think Mobile. Mobile sounds right.
as far as your workload, like, what's the ratio of traveling to just playing?
Our tour was very light. Where the big show would do like 14 shows a week, we would have 7.
Nice.
Or like a big week would be 10, maybe.
Yeah, where we'd have to, like, if we had
Yeah.
to play a show on like Wednesday and like
Yeah.
2 on Saturday, and
You have like 2 days just to get there and then do whatever, and then
Usually it was like 3 days.
3
to
days.
get
Okay.
there. And the drive was like 1 day.
Okay.
So you'd have 2 days of, hey, I'm going to go
Which makes
see
sense.
this
'cause
cave, or
Yeah.
I'm going to go to these falls, or
Caves of America.
yeah,
we love caves.
yeah, a lot of spelunking.
Yeah.
Gabe and I just with our headlamps.
I already thought you were interesting, and now it's over the top.
You're like, let's go to Wilkes-Barre and dig for anthracite.
What if you were to share a story, perhaps a mutual story, on a podcast about working for Ringling Brothers Circus? I keep saying Ringling, but it's also Barnum and didn't they merge at one point? Or something?
At one point the marketing changed and it became just Ringling.
The name of your band, Greybag, is named after
Yeah.
an RV. So explain what a Greybag
After
is.
an RV.
Well, after an element, an aspect of the RV.
It's a spot in an RV to plug in a hose, and if you're in a place where you can just kind of dump gray water, like the shower and sink water.
So not what Cousin Eddie in
Cheers,
Christmas
that's-
Vacation
yeah.
was pouring into.
Yeah. Some spots that we would play would not have, a place for us to do that.
God, that story alone makes me never want an RV.
Actually, I miss doing that
Yeah?
a lot. Yeah. There's something like liberating about saying, you know what? Fuck this. I'm packing everything up and driving down.
Oh,
go to
that.
work.
Yeah, for sure. Well, now you have Starlink, too. So now you can fucking
oh,
get
it's even
Wi-Fi
better
everywhere.
now. I would have
So-
loved to have done Ringling
Oh, man.
now.
Yeah.
God. Our specific tour would give us these. They basically just hold liquid. It's like a little kiddie pool, and then they would bring in like a truck to like empty that stuff out.
But you would leave it somewhere. Like
it would be
wasn't-
like to the side of your RV, and there'd be
like at a park or
hose
something, they would come by. Is that no?
yeah, kind of. If you think
Who's
of like
coming by? like how do
a
they know where you
sewage
are?
truck,
Okay,
whatever,
all
come
right.
with and-
I have no clue of this infrastructure.
It's
So
interesting.
It's
because
crazy to me.
Depending on like what
There's
part
a
of
guy that comes and gets your
he
shitty
comes
water.
by. There's a guy
He just comes by with a ladle.
with a hump.
That's
Ladles
old
it out.
Greybag Billy.
Oh, great bag, Billy.
Ladle.
And then he sells it.
He sells it. He bottles it. Calls it Ringling Swill. And
You can sell anything on the internet.
this is Ringmaster bathwater.
Ringmaster bathwater. So that's where that's the origin
That term,
of that.
gray bag, is
Gray
the
bag.
bag. Where you
But it also, and it's not, I don't want this to come off as an insult because it is like, well, that's why your music sounds like that. No, but it's like, but it is, it is an apt name because the music, it's the album called again, shit. Never Meant to Stay.
Greybag Billy's.
Another amazing title that kind of speaks to both of your collective careers together. When your nomad kind of lifestyle, it's good. It's good shit. It's very bluesy. Man. It's very gritty, I guess, is the
gritty. Some grit on it.
Some grit on it.
We recorded in those RVs, so.
Did you?
There's some grit. Yeah, most of that stuff was done.
Yeah, the majority of
on
it.
Parking,
on
parking lots
on the album.
Yeah.
Okay. Shit. So, and then this is so you're digging back through years of recordings.
Yeah.
And putting this album together.
Most of the stuff was in 2015, maybe some of it in 2014.
Yeah, it was all around the same time because like I basically never share my music with anyone. So I was getting into the habit like when I'd go into like an arena, I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to record something on this little like 4-track recorder in the arena, like in the space. And then I decided to send it to Gabe and he's like, hey, let's start playing the stuff. And
yeah.
Like,
are they mostly your songs or like both or?
Dan will write like he would send like you playing ukulele or guitar.
Yeah. So some of them were more fleshed out, like the I can't remember the name of the song. Bing ding ding bong.
Birds and Fish.
Yeah, the birds and
all Dan.
The birds and the fish. Like that one was ready to go.
Like all you playing all the instruments kind of thing.
Yeah, and the all the other stuff was like because I'm just playing in this 4-track recorder in some random arena.
Yeah,
I either have like a ukulele or I'm like sitting in the bathroom at the truck stop and like and just singing in the thing or whatever.
That's how the best art is made, is under this weird pressure of like scrambling to do something.
In Odessa, didn't you record in like a mine shaft or something?
I did.
One of those caves.
Yeah, I recorded. It was like
a mine shaft,
an oil drilling thing. It was like all made out of wood. So I like went in there and recorded wind sounds. And
dude, I love that. That's awesome.
It was weird. Super cool. I loved it.
Well, and then at that point, you're field recording, like
yeah.
So you're combining that with shit. Like, were you playing an instrument in that space too, or were you just recording the space itself?
Just basically recording the space at that point, and then manipulating it afterwards with like filters and stuff to make it sound.
I haven't actually listened to it yet, so now this is good because it's gonna hype me up to listen to it.
But also, like you're like really open to just me arranging stuff.
Yeah, that was the coolest thing about Gabe is I could just be like, here's a stupid thing that I wrote, and then he'll like fully form it into like something with like horns and a nice arrangement that doesn't sound like me farting in a bathroom.
Here's a recording of me farting in a bathroom. Turn it into something.
Make it a nice song, would you?
I would always feel bad because if you would send me something, and then I would be like, man, this would be killer as like a completely different genre or like completely different thing. And
right.
I'm like, God, what do you think about this, Dan? Like, it's great. Let's do it. I'm like, I don't want to ruin your your artistic vision.
No, I have no artistic integrity or vision whatsoever.
You heard it here, folks. Dan Glynn has
Greybag,
no
artistic
integrity.
Buy our shit.
No, I mean, I've learned that in the past couple years, just from learning music production and then sound design and then fucking implementation and middleware and all that shit, is that it's okay to fucking bounce shit, like work on something with somebody else. And I feel like that's where
hard to do.
Well, and I've found that because I went through jazz school and then I was a musician and then I came out here and did a master's degree, and the whole time I'm like, I'm me, I'm the product. I'm always the product. I'm responsible for what I put out into the world or whatever. And it's like, that's not how most of the world works. I'm not, you can't like kind of force yourself to be everything unless you're amazing. And some people do it, but it's like most people just fucking collaborate. Find one other person that you can collaborate with. And I find it very nice that you guys have found each other, you know?
Now
hug. Now hug each other.
now kiss. No, I always enjoy doing stuff with Dan. It's like,
Yeah.
we have fun doing.
But that's awesome. You made a record with somebody over the course of how many years while working at a circus. Like, not everybody.
Yeah.
That's an interesting factoid right there.
If anything, I feel like if we had known that the show would close when it did, we probably would have done more or been more proactive of completing
That's
it.
everybody,
at least,
though. That's everybody.
Yeah, it's always that.
It always feels like it's
hindsight
gonna
thing,
last forever. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Back to like what you were saying about like getting into sound design and learning all these things outside of being a musician. Like we all have that same background, you know.
Yeah.
And when you messaged me initially, right away, what I wanted to convey to you, and I don't know if I did well enough, was that like the gig that we do was way more accessible than what like you thought you needed to be.
Right.
And so I was trying to like the stuff that you do, man. I'm like, wow, that's way overkill compared to like what we're doing over the like casino stuff is kind of like paint by numbers at this point. You know?
Right.
And you're like redesigning stuff like with Foley, and I'm like, I want to do that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It's the state of where we are now. Like we're in 2024 right now as we record this. And last year was just in like AAA game development. I think there was over 6,000 layoffs. We're at this weird churning, shifting point in the industry right now, I think.
It seems like for the stuff that we do, you're better off starting a business that just does sound design.
Yeah.
And selling the fact that you can provide the sound design plus the
implementation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the money would be.
Well, and then I approached you like, and I'm already Canadian, so I'm already apologizing, right? But I approach you and I'm like, I'm not trying to take your job. I'm not, that's what it felt like. And it's not even like, how do I get your job? It's like, what should I be focusing on based on your industry expertise? It's like, I don't want to spend all this time doing something that doesn't, net me anything.
There's a lot of it that's just right place at right time.
Yeah, that's true too.
Like
what you're saying, it's like the other bass player, Dan, that came down to you and that guy. It's like, well, the other guy didn't like his vibe as much. It's like,
well, he didn't talk.
Right? Yeah, that's a pretty good vibe to go off.
He just walks in with his bass and boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
You're all day. You got to fucking deal with this guy.
But like, I didn't get hired for the vibe or anything, Like that interview. If anything, I creeped out. Like when I got interviewed, it was the head of the department and then the other sound designer at that time, because it was just the two of them.
You creeped him out.
Yeah, because they were like, hey, you're gonna meet with Kaz and Eric, and they copied them, and so I was like, all right, I know their first and last name. Let's see what they did. And it was like, oh, Eric did a whole bunch of like AAA stuff, and Kaz did like tons of like coin op, and some console stuff. And I talked to him about it, and they were instantly like uncomfortable.
Oh my god!
Especially Kaz. And once that meeting was done, I was like, well, I didn't get the job.
Because that's what I did before coming here tonight, and I would be flattered by that.
They both were just like, what? They weren't prepared for that, and
but then you still got the job.
I got the job, yeah. And so when I started initially, I wasn't getting a lot of heavy like work, because they're like, oh, you got to learn the engine, because it's a proprietary audio engine. I think the first task I was given was to make a new card flip sound, and I took 10 minutes and I said, here you go. And he's like, take your time, I'm like, did you check it out? Is it bad? He's like, no, but that was really fast. I'm like, all right. I made like 10 more. Here you go. And so he played through and was like, oh yeah, these are fine. Like, this is fine. This is fine. The first one was fine. But it quickly accelerated from there, And I think it goes back to like the circus. Dan and I have kind of upper hand, and Skippy as well. There's three of us from circus. Performance of circus music is modular, and so is game audio. Like you're playing for an event that happens, and it's up to you to make that segue as seamless as possible. We're already kind of doing procedural music at that point. So like the transition, there was just kind of a few little things to get used to, but it didn't take long to like get into the meat and potatoes of here's a full game, you know. The slot machine, if you were to like take it at its core, it's like you're going to write music that happens sometimes during, you know, regular play, but usually you're writing music for a feature. That's like the big ta-da moment. And you're creating like all the sound effects for, you know, when things occur.
Which are often musical. Like, so we think about sound effects like as in like, you know, someone's footsteps in a movie, but like, you know, you're talking about like a square lighting up in a certain way, and you hear tonal things that ascend or whatever. Like,
the times that you're using just straight Foley. Let's say there's like a firework, right?
Yeah.
And the firework like flies up on screen and reveals money.
Yeah.
Right? You won this money.
Big win.
Yeah. Line rocket sound effect. Like the stuff that you would be like, oh, it's a rocket. There's the whistle. There's an explosion.
Yeah.
You would do that, right? But depending on like what that is supposed to do, like that moment, say it's a mechanic of the game, right?
Yeah, yeah.
A positive mechanic of the game. The person's not going to remember.
Right.
And that's when you do those musical elements.
Yeah.
Because then it becomes like a calling card. Then it becomes like, oh, so-and-so just got this thing to happen on the machine. I heard it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's interesting to me because, like, I don't know if you've ever read Inside the Score. It's like he analyzes Sammy Nastico and Bob Brookmeyer and Thad Jones, and he does these like diagrams. He's tracking the dynamics of a like a specific. It's like 4 bars of this, 8 bars, 8 bars, 8 bars, and you can see the peak. Like it has the most energy right here because this is the climax. It's like a film. Like you could track a film the same way. You could track a story the same way.
Yeah.
And so I find it interesting, like certain like slot elements, you would have like if they hit this thing, it's like this bonus or whatever is going to be less than this other bonus kind of thing.
As far as energy,
yeah. So it's like you're taking into those things into consideration when you're designing that stuff. I find that so cool. Like,
and it's weird though because I feel like at least in Konami, we're more worried about that than a lot of competitors are.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff is like really loud on the floor. Just loud for the sake of being loud.
Yeah,
you know?
just be louder than the other person.
Yeah. And you know, our boss is very much like, don't annoy the player. You know, don't like everything is important.
Yeah.
Even the real
Sand the
sound.
edges. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and plus you have cabinets now that are jacked up with these massive speakers, at least sometimes. But that's a good question. Like, so like from your time starting, which was, when did you start at Konami?
2016 for me.
2016.
Yeah.
2018.
Or 2017 actually. Yeah, because you were the year after me. Yeah.
They probably just keep getting bigger and bigger, right? Like,
the cabinet size, yeah.
Yeah.
Audio has improved in the last 3 years quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the 3 years? Okay.
Yeah, it hasn't been very long.
Interesting.
Right before the pandemic, you had these cabinets that were like overpowered.
Well, and I was texting you during G2E, as a conference out here for slot machine stuff, because you know what people.
Great casino people.
Great plug. I do ads too. Anyone listening? But I had texted you. I was saying, "Are you here?" And you were like, "No," but blah 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 blah. And then you were like, "Go check out the Squid Game."
Slot
machine. I was like, slot. "Okay, cool." I think what is that, Aristocrat, or is that
Light and Wonder?
Light and Wonder.
Yeah.
And I walk over there. It's like up
20
to the
feet
ceiling.
tall. Yeah, it's massive.
It's this massive thing with like subwoofers and shit. And it's like, it's interesting too because like I'm operating in the world where you know everything's digital. We're shipping like a mobile game that's it's just a mobile game. It's going to go on Google Play and Apple Store, and that's it. And, but then, like, to think about a single game to work on that has all this physical infrastructure, like, added to it, and they're like,
it's really nice, like, especially like towards the end of a project, being able to refine the sound because of the cabinet. That's the coolest thing, I think.
Do you have like a mixing phase? Is there like a post-production kind of like phase of what you're doing? How do they put you in front of the machine?
For the most part, they're updated, and we can kind of, as you go, like, tweak things.
Oh, so wait, so you have like a cabinet that they then load in games to.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Most times, I should say. Because there's stuff we do for Japan and for...
Picturing a truck, like, pulling up, and it's like, the Squid Game is here. Let's go see what it sounds like. That's not what it is.
I mean, there's sometimes we do stuff for Australia and Japan, and we don't even get to...
Yeah, you never see it. Yeah.
It's gone.
But then, like, someone else would be mixing it probably, right? Like, are you sending them stems
Some of it.
in any way? Or are you sending them,
We're usually doing, like, content for Japan, and there's a sound designer doing implementation.
Okay.
It's such a skeleton crew.
Yeah.
It's a very light crew.
Okay.
But they're very nimble, and they actually do a lot. Their output is really high for the crew they have.
I imagine so. Yeah.
They're really, yeah.
We covered Konami. We talked about that. I'm going to back up just for a second because I was researching you, Dan. After Ringling, you freelanced as a bass player, including a stint with the Squonk Opera. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was the contract you went and like did in China, right?
I went to China. Yeah.
You went to China.
Yeah.
So went on their website and they have all these like paper mache hands and like these elaborate, like it's a drummer on like a big like rig thing that like moves around when he plays. Mm-hmm. How did that come about and what was that experience like?
They had a bass player who played with them. He did not like going overseas. He did not like traveling that far.
All right.
So Jeremy called me up and said, "Hey, I play with Squonk, and we're going to China." And I'm like, "Yes, I'm going immediately."
You were like, "What do those words mean?"
Yeah. So Squonk, they send me videos so I can study up, because basically what we're going to do is just go to China and play the show for a month. I have never played with these people ever in my entire life. So it was like every day before work, before my construction job, rehearse everything. Yeah. After, rehearse everything. And I did this for thankfully they gave me like, I think it was maybe a couple weeks or something before we went out. First time meeting these people is at the airport as I'm going to China.
Okay. Yeah. For the first time. Like you've never been to China at this point. Right?
Never been to China. Yeah. No. Yeah, just meet these people and get on the plane, go to China. We basically have zero time to rehearse whatsoever. Yeah. It's like, get up on stage, put this helmet thing, make sure it inflates, everything's good, okay, and then we play the show. So I'm
back up. What's the inflatable thing? What?
So there's a portion of the show with basically the show is themed around air and inflatable. So it's
is that what the hands are? They inflate because they look like
balloons.
paper mache.
I think I think they're inflatable.
Yeah. Okay.
So I basically had this helmet that I had to put over my head to like while I'm playing bass. Yeah. There's a point in the song where this thing inflates, and it's maybe I would guess 15-foot tall inflatable spike that comes off the top of my head. But because I never rehearsed it, I didn't know like the mechanics of it. Right. So when it inflated, like it shot out directly, and like it was like touching Jackie, who's like one of the founders and keyboard players in the show. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like touching everyone, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I'm like,
they didn't give you like training on this weird inflatable spike.
They did, but there was like I didn't want to take time away from like sound check and everything like that. I'm I'll just put the thing on and we'll do it. It's fine. I'll just do it during the show.
Fucking Hollywood mentality, man. It's like I don't want to be the one that slows anyone down, man. I'm gonna just do it.
Did somebody like make that happen, or did you have to push a button or something? Or
it just happened.
It just happened. Whoa.
Yeah, so I don't recall the specific time of whatever happened. But yeah, so like it shoots out directly. It's like touching people. I'm like, I don't know what to do.
That's awesome. There's all these points where all these checkpoints you reach where 100 people quit, and then 50 people quit, and then 20 people quit. You didn't quit, and you kept going, and you reached the point where you could do this job, that job, and then that other job, and then which leads me into Gabe, who you transitioned from performing with Ringling to you were doing more music production and like programming and sound design and stuff with Feld. Yeah, is that right? So like, did you transition fully, or was it like you're kind of doing it on the side?
So
going from playing piano to like more technical stuff.
It was expected that you were going to program your rig on tour, and a majority of people that play shows don't do that. They don't really know more than like kind of the basics of how the instrument works. Like the Broadway guys that are just readers.
Yeah.
Like they just want a next button and that's it, or a pedal if possible. And with Ringling, it was like, well, every 2 years you're gonna like rebuild the entire rig, right?
Yeah.
And so
why is that? Because of new shit that's coming out, or is it,
well, new show, and then also like it's new gear every tour.
Okay.
So it's not going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
Going into that gig, I had limited knowledge of programming since I wasn't like the synth guy. I was like the heavy-handed bar piano guy.
Right.
And like didn't fuck with Roland's or whatever. I had this Alesis, whatever. Just completely like had to learn this new way.
Yeah.
But then realized that like the other guys on these shows weren't really doing the same thing. And so after that first run, it was like I was the guy programming my stuff all the time and helping with whatever.
Yeah.
And so when there was that transition of I'm leaving, the music director for all shows was like, hey, how about you stick around for like the first 2 weeks of show build and help with like programming and stuff. So I was doing that, and 2 weeks became like the full build of the show because it was like, can you do this? Can you do that? And with that was 2006. So the technology of the shows changed completely. Like, so our backing tracks prior to that were like the 360 system, hot button, play. And it was like basically the left channel was a cowbell and the right channel was backing vocals. And that was it.
Okay.
And so we would get both or just cowbell, and the house got the vocals.
Okay.
And that was your click track, basically.
Okay, yeah.
And for this new show, it was such a bigger production that the composer, Michael Picton, who came from like Cirque, it's like we really need sweetener tracks. Like there's a lot happening,
Right, yeah.
and we're gonna make this band sound like huge. And so between him and I, we were figuring out how to make a multi-track thing happen, and it ended up becoming Ableton Live.
Yeah.
And so like we did that, and it worked. And then I went off and worked at Open Labs. It was just like a keyboard company.
Yeah.
And when it came time to do the next show build, got the phone call, and it was kind of a joke for the first couple of times. It was like the director was like, I think probably only need you for like 2 weeks, and then it'd be the whole run.
Yeah.
By the third time, it was like, you're gonna come back? You want to come back and do the whole thing?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And it became like a real contract. And if you listen to tapes of the band in 2005 and then 2006,
Yeah.
a completely different sound.
Interesting.
Like,
Yeah.
it's very much like, oh yeah, I hear that. That's like 9 guys playing.
Yeah.
And then that next year, it's like, what the fuck is this? It's like 20 million musicians playing. Like there's but yeah, it got so much more technical. And eventually it was like, my gig grew from, you're going to program the synth to make them sound like the demo, to you're going to like work with the arranger to like figure out who can play what to sound like the demo.
Interesting.
To like, we're going to use Mac Minis and main stage, and you need to figure out an A/B rig that won't crash, and like we're going to make whatever the composer writes just exactly sound like what the keyboardists are playing, stuff like that, And the cool thing about that music department was that we were always of the mindset of the least amount of stuff on track is the best, because like these guys, they have to make it so that it's stupid obvious that without this band it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And for a lot of stuff with Circus, you can't use a track. Like you could have
Well,
loop
yeah,
stuff.
because of the flexibility of a live show.
Yeah.
You have to be able to adapt to somebody maybe stumbling for a second and resetting.
Yeah. Or even in live animal acts, like you never
fucking
know what's
animals.
gonna happen.
Yeah, like they don't even. Yeah, they don't even have human brains. No, but that's okay. No, continue. I have nothing to contribute.
But
there.
it basically what it does is like it makes you think about like how much stuff can you put on a musician, that isn't gonna like kill them.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're gonna do like 9 shows in a row, like over 3 days, like. And so you're figuring out, all right, well, you've got 2 keyboard players, maybe a guitarist with a MIDI pickup if you're lucky, and a drummer with an SPDX pad. It's like, how can I spread some of this random ass shit in this composer's, session? Because at that point, the compositions were eclipsing what the band could do.
Yeah.
Because they're selling movie music at this point. And so it's like, all right, well, I can, I've got this much memory on basically 4 keyboards, right?
Yeah.
If we really need these Hans Zimmer French horns, we could sample them.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's like how much memory you want to give up, and then it's like, well, we got taiko shit. All right, the drummer could play it, or he could trigger a loop because he's also got to play time and catch tricks and whatever else.
Well, and we're not hiring a taiko player.
Exactly.
We're not. Yeah.
So between the keyboardists and the drummers, it was like octopus. You're like, I'm playing this and I'm hitting the trigger pad to do this weird ethereal thing, and then the drummer's playing time, catching a trick, and also the next loop that happens. There's always a loop coming. So it got real intricate, and we had to create our own music notation too. And, there was some cool experiments in notation between 4 or 5 of us.
Now, that each of you would be able to read on your own or with other people, or what do you mean?
The idea was to create a system that if somebody came in and had the sub, especially on the keyboard book, it wouldn't be terrible.
Right.
Yeah. So you would have a note, if it was something for a pad, right? You would have a note and a box, and it would either say B and a number or T and a number, which meant bottom keyboard or top. And it was the number of the pad.
Okay.
Stuff like that. Or phrases, so
But that's written in the music that they're reading?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
When I started, we didn't have that. It was just the notes and the name of the sound, right?
Yeah.
And it was well, if you don't know the rig, you're fucked. And so with eventually the system became you'd have these boxes that said top or bottom.
Yeah.
And you would know, oh, that's the top keyboard. And it was written at where the note was. And a lot of times it would sound, different octave, but it was always, if you were to read and not have headphones on, the goal was, if you couldn't hear what was going on and you at least knew the tempo, you could play the book.
Yeah.
Eventually it was a really good system.
You're both very remarkable people that you've adapted. People can find your album at greybagmusic.com.
Yeah.
You can either order the album, or you could drive to Gabe's house.
You can drive to my house. Actually, the vinyl is on Bandcamp.
The album is called Never Meant to Stay. There's good shit on it. I like it as a horn player because there's horns on it. I haven't heard it yet. I played the songs because we jammed here at your house earlier last year. Greybag.com. What else can we plug? What else would you want anyone else to hear?
You got some stuff, Dan?
I don't want anyone to talk to me.
Don't go to onlydans.com.
Never go there.
Onlydans.com, greybagmusic.com. One of those will give you a really nice vinyl that you can add to your collection. Anyway, Dan Glynn, Gabe Romero, thank you so much. A big elephant-sized thank you to Dan Glynn and Gabe Romero for being my guests today. Please go and check out their album Never Meant to Stay, available on Bandcamp or at greybagmusic.com, both of which are linked in the show notes. I leave you now with a song off of that album, Bottom of the Ocean. I'm going to take this zip line to the next episode. All right, strap myself in here, and a little clippy, and a little clippy. See ya. Oh,